it's easy to lose things or lose photos or anything. So putting that out there, it makes it easier to know where that photo is going to be.
So do you remember that moment from the photo?
I remember a handful, but yeah, that one specifically, I remember always wearing my Dale Jr.'s shirts at that point, and I thought that was like my favorite shirt to wear because it looked like his race suit. So, it looks really similar to the shirts you see us wear now. You have it looks like the suit. So that was at Disney World, which we'd go 1,000 times, and we stopped going there because it was either you go to Disney World or you pay for tires when I started racing. So, but no, that was a really fun week and trip that I hadn't seen those photos in a very long time.
And to get into racing, this will be the last race before you get a weekend off, and then after that, there isn't a weekend off the rest of the season. I know drivers talk about, hey, I'd just as soon be in the car every day of the year. What will be the challenge of after this Easter break of racing every weekend, whether it's for you, the team, or everything in general?
I don't know. I feel like everybody's so used to it, and for us, I think it would be important to have that reset and then be able to go and hopefully we can refire, really strong and get the finishes. I feel like we've been striving for and feel like we, could get or capable of getting. That if we get on a roll, I don't think any of us are going to want to stop or take a break and break up that momentum. So I think it's a good time for everybody to get a reset and then hopefully, have a really big, push and make that be the second half of the year.
Go to Jordan and then to Jacob.
Jordan Bianchi, The Athletic, kind of following up on that, you look at your recent results. Do you look at the results or do you look at performance, or how would you kind of assess this little stretch right now?
Well, yeah, you look at the results, but then when the results aren't good, you got to look at the running average, right, or where we're at, and wonder why. And luckily, Spire Motorsports is super. Jeff Dickerson is the most understanding guy of all time, basically, and he's the one that is just like, man, we just got to finish the race. But he's like, I don't know what to tell you how to finish. You blow a tire, you blow this, you do this. It's kind of all things out of our control-ish, right? Of just freak things that are just toppling on each other. But we're running good, so I think that was the biggest thing that he said is just don't get so caught up in the results right now because we're not 30th place race car. We're not slow. And he's like, man, right now we're just trying to find new ways to finish 30th. So it's just out of the get-go, and we're over this. And, we've gotten out of the way. And he reminded me there was times last year where we weren't great, and the other guys had misfortune. We finished good. So I think it's sustainable for us long-term for sure to be fast and wonder what's kind of keeping us from finishing good rather than be slow and not sure why we're finishing okay. That's keeping all us, hungry and excited and keeping our whole group together, right? It's, if you get 5 30th place finishes in 8 races, right, you start looking at, crew guys and crew members and everything, and our group's so strong and we're so, we're good on pit road, we're good on the racetrack throughout the race at some point that, we know everybody on our group's plenty capable of the potential of finishing really good. It's just we just got to be able to take advantage of the adversity, and as my dad would remind me when I was a kid racing, is their character building moments, and our 77 team's going through that right now. Yeah.
Jacob Seelman, Race Face Digital. Carson, 2 for you. First, you've had flashes here at Bristol of really good things. You're a short track guy, came up that way. But what is the challenge here compared to, I guess, what you grew up doing and what we would call a traditional short track, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, you're going so fast, right? Is that dirty air is a factor? Compared to that, the banking's a lot, and the track compound is always a confusion, right? Of if it's going to be on the bottom and what you're going to get. You never really 100% know when the top's going to burn in and when it's not. And it's a little easier to predict for like the Cup race just because it's 400 or 500 laps that you can kind of guess what the pattern's going to be just because you run enough laps. But, I remember when I run trucks here, it always was a question mark if it was going to be burned in by the end of the race or at the start. And you saw that yesterday without any practice or anything. It started to move up the racetrack at like the last 10 laps or something. So, it's always a difficult deal here of just track position and balancing it out, and everybody's being super, super good and moving around or trying to. I got to run here in a late model when I was about 14 or whatever, so it still got a little bit of feel to that, when I was 14 racing here.
And your 77 team really had a lot of stability over the off season, but on the whole, when you look at what Spire Motorsports is doing and growing, how has the influence or the leadership of guys like Rodney, Travis, Michael, even though they're not directly working with your team organizationally, do you feel like that's lifted you or at least let you have some new ideas to work on your own craft with?
I'm sure a little bit there. For me on my craft, I'm very stubborn and like to go my own direction, do my own things, and I think that's been healthy for us. Michael has his process, Justin has his process, I have mine. But apart from the race cars, or where I see a lot of impact on our program is the unsung heroes. It's the Matt McCalls, the Dax, and a handful of others, right, that are in the competition space. Ryan Sparks not being on a pit box and overseeing the whole program. It's those three guys and the others that are sitting at home or sitting in the race shop right now that have, I think, really impacted the 77 more. Because Travis and Rodney, they're working on their own stuff. They can't, they still work together, but it's it's the job of Matt and Ryan and everybody else to figure out what Rodney and Travis are doing and communicate that to the 77 car and vice versa, and ultimately, have all three cars be fast.
Go to John Newby next, and then Lee.
John Newby, Savage Ventures. So earlier today, Jesse Love was in here talking about his Cup debut and how he doesn't know what he doesn't know. I was curious, do you remember the first time you started a Cup race here? Because it was only your fourth start, and you finished 11th. I was curious, what was that process like for you adapting to this track and 500 laps?
Yeah, I remember. I ran the truck race, and it was different, right? I got to come in the fall race, and I had a Cup deal signed, and to go full time the next year, we just ran third or fourth in the truck race. I was like plus 30 to make the final four on points. So I showed up with not looking at any data, any SMT for Cup because I was so focused on the truck deal to make that race. And I remember showing up thinking, I'm just going to go out here and figure it out. I don't think I looked at one piece of information. I didn't sleep and just mainly just breezed through that whole weekend and had a really, really good time with those guys and Luke and everybody. And I remember being super cool and confidence and ego at an all-time high probably per se. And then we ran like fifth, so that didn't help me or help bring me back down to earth. And we had a loose wheel and finished 11th. But, yeah, I remember, being really excited, Bristol night race. My Cup debuts I got to do my first few Cup races I got to do the Gateway, obviously, was a cool track and unique. But I got to do the Southern 500 and the Bristol night race as my second and third ever Cup start. So, super cool tracks to fire off and get going. And I was not pumped, and it was Luke's favorite race, and he made me super confident that we were going to be good. And I don't think he expected us to be that good, but it was a lot of fun, driving by a lot of heroes of mine and everything. I still remind Rodney that was the race they went like 6 laps down on speed. So I remind him of that, and so that's fun to rag on him a little bit.
Lee Spencer, Series 6 of NASCAR Radio and Catchfence.com. You've improved every time you've gone to Talladega. Is there something that you've worked on to get better? Because that place, sometimes it's just luck of the draw.
They've wrecked more, probably. I normally just sit around. My average running position's like 33rd, and I finish like 14th because they crash, and I just avoid it. That's kind of been the super speedway strategy I've gone with because it's really difficult from the way this package is right now. It's more, I didn't last year for sure at super speedways. Our cars, even if I could have got to the lead, it was just way too draggy, and I wouldn't be able to hold on, and you'd get shuffle out really quick. So if I felt like the best we could be was the high single digits, low teens, I could bank on a crash at the end and having our car safe and being fourth or fifth in line, and maybe they crash the line and I win the race. And we kind of did that at Daytona again as we improve our cars. Like Atlanta, I was able to make a lot of moves and pace, but you can kind of draft on your own and make moves. But Talladega and Daytona right now, it kind of just gets gridlocked, and I just feel like you're sitting in line waiting to crash almost at times. And I kind of play into the role of, even if you miss the wreck and get a flat tire, you might go a few laps down. And so I try to pick a strategy rather than just hope on something. So I just kind of go with we're going to wait till the green and white checkered that always seems to come, and then go race. But this time at Talladega, I don't know what I'll do. I'll probably try and get track position more because I think our cars are improving. But we'll just kind of see how that goes.
You think guys will be, I won't say maybe on the chip or, chomping at the bit to get back to competition after being off for a week?
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I don't know. I've always looked at super speedways like they're another off week almost because you don't really prep. You don't really, like, the preparation and what we look at is so different than anything else. You're not stressed for qualifying. You're not stressed on practice. You're not talking about your race car. You get Friday and Saturdays basically off, and Sunday, it's just about saving fuel and picking the right line and working with your teammates really late in the race. They're really late in the stages, so yeah, I don't know. I've always looked at like it's almost an off week per se compared to the amount of work that goes into the rest of the races.
Any final questions for Carson? Okay, we'll come to Cameron.
Cameron Richardson, NASCAR.com. Carson, obviously the results this year haven't been, based on you guys' speed, but, when we watch the race, we usually see the front of the pack, and, some of your run-ins over the last few weeks have, come in the mid-pack, but can you describe just how difficult it is, when you're having the race in the mid-pack during the race? Because, we see, everyone's pretty spread out, and, top 5, top 10, but how just tight, compact, and, elbows out is it, having to run the mid-pack to work your way up?
Yeah, I mean, it's a dogfight in the middle, but it's more so just because everybody's really close in mid-pack or in the low teens, just because all cars are good and they know how close they are to getting clean air. You're only a few spots from getting that, and it reminds me of what you see in sprint car racing now is. The leader will fire off and take off, but the second you catch lap traffic, the whole pack starts to come back into it. And then, if they're behind lap cars or anything, you start seeing them really race and, throwing sliders, and then all of a sudden you're 4 or 5 cars on top of each other. And it's kind of similar to what we have right now with era-wise. Is I don't think too far away from, a type of sprint car race you'd see from high limit or anything else of the top few spread out, and it starts building a little closer gap as you get to the single high single digits, and then all the teens are on top of each other because they're all in just bad air.
Any last questions? Oh yes, Claire, go ahead.
Claire
Close with
Belang.
Claire.
Question about the track changing and whether it's easier, people have been around for years and kind of get used to things, but the track has changed, or being a young driver and probably kind of just learning it as you go. How much during the race, during a weekend, during the cold, do you even know what to expect with the track here?
Yeah, I mean, I know last year at this time, none of us knew what to, or what we were gonna have. Where this time now you're expecting the worst or even worse than that or somewhere in between. So for us, I know we've planned for all type of scenarios as you can. And the spring race last year, I don't think anybody expected that. But it's been seen before. I remember watching on TV the 2008 or whatever it was at Indy when they had this issue, or times before that. But it's just part of it. And now it's in the notebook, right? Now it's or in the playbook that this could be happen or something similar to that you have to prepare for. And I know when I got my pre-race notes from my spotter Tyler Green, he almost had 3 races worth of notes because he had somewhere in between how it was in the spring and then the fall race. Appreciate it.
All right, Carson, thanks so much for coming in. Good luck
Thanks.
this weekend.
Thank you.
And we're going to roll right into our next media availability. Oh, okay. We have a special presentation by the NMPA. Deb Williams, please come on up. It's okay.
You want me to use the mic or my booming voice?
Yeah, you want to use one of those? There you go.
Joy, last year, 2 days before the round of 8 was to be determined, you, your wife, and members of your foundation went to Western North Carolina to determine what you could do to help those who were devastated by Helene. After that, you, through your foundation, committed $250,000 to help those in Western North Carolina and East Tennessee. For your unselfish act, the National Motorsports Press Association voted you the recipient of the 4th quarter NMPA Pocono Spirit Award.
Oh, awesome.
Congratulations.
Thank you. That's awesome. Look at that. Let's take a picture. Awesome. Thank you. You guys didn't have to do that, but I appreciate it. Thank you very much. That's really neat. Really neat. That's obviously a real special thing because I think that storm impacted so many people in this area. I think everyone in this room probably knows somebody that lives in that area or visited that area or is from that area, and you see some of the devastation that was up there. And I thought maybe the most special part about that is seeing everybody band together, right? And I've always heard that, one of my quotes that I like to think about a lot is don't let a crisis go to waste. And a crisis like that presented a huge opportunity for all of us to band together and impact some people that just got their lives wiped out, right? Whether it's their homes or vehicles or their family. It's some pretty heavy stuff up there, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen it. So, the great news is there's a lot of comeback up there, and obviously they've been dealing with fires now as well. But it's definitely been a tough road for everyone. But I can't take full credit for something like this. I got a great group at the foundation that when I put a project together and say, hey, I want to go after this. Let's go make a big impact. Let's help some people. We have the ability to do it. Let's do it now while we can. And so finding the right ways to do it, we did a good job at that, and met a lot of great people, a lot of great relationships that will help us throughout the years moving forward in that area. And for us, the Joey Logano Foundation is all about foster care, and there's a lot of families that, you think about foster families, man, they have committed so much
Such a selfless act to take on a kid that's been put through the ringer, to say the least, and then their life gets wiped out by a storm of nothing they can do about it. It was pretty special to deliver some cars back up there. That was a fun one, and make some repairs as well to people's homes or some of the Cross Nor and Black Mountain Children's Home. These places that we love working with already had a lot of damage, so being able to work with them some more too was really nice. So, like I said, we committed 250, and as soon as we committed that and started doing things, another 300 or so rolled in, and we ended up giving way over $500,000 to that area. So that just goes to show, once you start doing it and you start telling everyone what it's all about, there's a lot of great people in our industry, right? Whether it's in this room or fans or sponsors that wanted to jump on board and help too. So that was really cool.
Joey, thank you for your contributions. I know they made a really big difference to those families. And Deb, thank you for the presentation. We'll go ahead and roll into the regular media portion. So if you have a question for Joey, please raise your hand. We'll get started. We're going to start with Zach.
Zach Scherniolo, NASCAR.com. Joey, this place particularly has a certain aura or allure to it. As someone who's been fortunate enough to win here and to have raced here for so many years now, how special is this place? What is it about this place that, as a driver, makes you challenges you and makes you really want to win here?
I feel like everyone should know that answer when they walk into this place. Right? I feel like it's all written right on its face, right? Like when you walk in, and I like to cross over the track instead of going through the tunnel because you get to see the full experience, and it's the wow factor, right? It's the badass factor of what this place is. I think that's what stands out, right? Whether it's the fans all the way around here. I mean, the last great Coliseum, right? I mean, it's what it is, and then obviously the racing it puts on great racing. Last night the truck race was a pretty good race to watch. Lots of interesting things happening, whether it's strategy or moving around the racetrack, and I just think it's always put on a pretty cool race.
Okay, we're going to go Kelly next, and then to Davey.
Kelly Crandall, Racer.com. Joey, first off, how were you feeling after Darlington? I know you had to go to the care center and get some fluids. Did you just overheat?
No, I had the stomach virus, that norovirus, and I thought I was good. And then right before the race, I realized I was not good, and was able to get through the race, but was pretty dehydrated afterwards because for one, I was throwing up and all throughout the week, and then just couldn't keep any fluids in even during the race. So it was not a fun experience, but I saw the end of it. It was a long race.
As it pertains to this weekend, NASCAR has not reapplied the PJ1 that was put down earlier this week. It obviously rained yesterday, and it's cold today. It'll be a little bit cool, I think, tomorrow. So what should we expect with how that PJ1 is going to react, and then, of course, with how cold it is just this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, it's always interesting to watch these races as the weekend goes here because you don't know exactly how it reacts. There's so many variables to the PJ1, how it's applied, what the temperature is going to be like, how the rubber is going to lay down, right? And we're 1 year anniversary from that crazy moment last year when everyone's tires were, wearing out in 30 laps. We don't know that's not going to happen today. Right? There's no certainty of that, right, as the temperatures are pretty cool. So I think we're all curious to see what that's going to be like, and we'll watch the races. And, last night the top started to come in late in the run. You've seen a few trucks be able to go up there and make something happen. Not many, but, as the Xfinity race runs today and, may rubber up a lot down there. Maybe it'll lose a little bit of its grip. I know tomorrow seems like it's a question at the moment whether they're going to reapply or not, so we'll see tonight.
Go to Davey and then to Shane.
Davey Siegel with Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. Kind of off of that question, Joey, you've raced on PJ1, resin, VHT, whatever substance we want to call it. You've raced on it all. So has Paul. How do you guys prepare for a racetrack and a race when you know that a traction compound is going to be applied? Like, how do you guys go about preparations for that?
It's harder because it's a moving target. It's the question is like, okay, is the track going to apply more? Okay, that's the first thing you want to ask. Okay, then what's that going to do? how long will it matter, right? Like if they reapply, the bottom's going to be super dominant to start the race. But at some point, it's going to rubber up, get chunky. What's that going to do to your car? Are you still going to be able to make it work down there? What do you need to your car to be able to make that happen? And then if you can't, then what's the top look like? And you're going to need something different for the top to work versus the bottom to work. And, you know, there's been times in the years, and it hasn't been recently, but it used to really over-rubber the top as well, and it would get clumped up there. And then, you know, so there would be 3 or 4 different stages of Bristol. And it was tough, you know, and it still is today of understanding what do you need at what point of the race. And it's very different if you run a 100-lap green flag run and then you stack it up with 3 15-lap runs. The track changes drastically. It completely changes, and then you need something else in your car, and you don't have enough pit stops to adjust it every time or know exactly where the track's going to go. So you kind of go off of history a little bit and, you know, where you think things may go.
You took a trip to D.C. this weekend, or this week, I should say. I know you did that once before, but you had a quote about how you were just taking pictures, soaking it all in. Your car was at the White House. What was different about this trip? What made it so impactful for you this time?
I mean, both times was really special, right? It's an honor to be invited to the nation's capital, right? I mean, it's just it's a surreal experience. You know, to see your race car sitting up in front of the White House, it's like that's really, really special. You know, the last time we went was back in 18, and we didn't have the opportunity to go in 22, and now we had the opportunity to go back, and so it was definitely really special to do that and have a little bit of an idea of what to expect this time. Although it still didn't go the way I expected, but it was still it was pretty special. You know, you walk into the Oval Office and you just think, gosh, like all the things that have happened in that room, right? The meetings, the stories that we don't know, right? We'll never know, but it all happened in that room. It's a pretty big thing to, you know, take a moment to let it soak in. So it's special that we you know, had the opportunity. Our sport gives us the opportunity to experience something that not many people will ever get to do. So I cherish that memory.
Shane Connick, Charlotte Observer. Going back to Zach's question about the last great Coliseum, as a driver, when you got the crowd the way it is up close on a short track like that, how much different does it make this track than any other?
Well, you hear them better. You definitely hear the cheers and the boos. They're much more in your face. I like that. Right? It's cool. It kind of brings a little bit more of you know, the stadium environment that other sports get to enjoy a little bit more. Right? It's hard to get that feeling when you're on a 1.5-mile racetrack. Right? You may have more people there than other sporting events, but they're spread out. Right? And here they're right there. You know, and you're going to hear it all after the race, and you know, just kind of like it happens at Martinsville as well. But this place is even larger, so it becomes a pretty fun experience most of the time.
And obviously, this place can be hosting a Major League Baseball game. Just how cool is that for the sport?
Well, I think I mean more for the facility than anything. Right? I mean, you have this incredible facility, a ridiculous amount of seats. You know, I think everybody wants to compete in the last great Coliseum. Right, like everybody wants to do it, and it presents an opportunity for something like that. And I couldn't understand how big of a task it is to create a baseball field in the middle of a racetrack. But if anyone's going to do it, Bristol will do it, because they put dirt on a 1/2 mile, and I thought that was impossible too. So it's nothing will surprise me at this point.
Appreciate it, Joey.
Yep.
Okay, we'll come here in the middle.
I know Talladega is 2 weeks away, but can you talk about racing on the super speedway?
Yeah, Talladega's kind of a beast of its own. It's really about the draft. The track is pretty wide, so it's quite a bit different than Daytona. You know, and handling isn't as big of a factor, at least through the corners. You know, so what ends up happening is the pushes and shoves, the draft itself becomes more aggressive. So definitely a unique one. But yeah, Talladega, people show up there too, right? That's everyone knows it as the party track. But I will never see that. I just race there.
Okay, we're going to go to Lee next, and then Deb.
Lee Spencer, SiriusXM NASCAR Radio and CatchFence.com. You've won 3 times at Talladega, both in the spring and the fall. How is the dynamic different, other than the pressure of having the fall race and the playoffs of the two races?
Yeah, the feeling is similar, but to your point, the playoffs change it all. Depending on where you are in the playoffs, it's definitely the racetrack when you roll in there of concern when you're in the playoffs, because there's only so much you really can control, right? There's a lot you can, but you can get caught up in something from someone else's decision, which happens a lot. And the wrecks more times than not happen towards the front of the pack, and we've had really good cars, and our team's really good at super speedway, so we expect to be up there. And then as you get down to the end of the race, the most aggressive cars are going to be the leaders because they have the most to gain. But yeah, and then when you add the playoffs to it, where there's so much more on the line than what it is in the spring, that's really the biggest difference. I mean, once you're in the car and the task is going, you're focused in so much that you don't really think a whole bunch about it. I mean, you think about the points, don't get me wrong, about each spot, what it's worth, but you strap in and you go race. Yeah. Yep.
Deb Williams, Auto Week. Joy, before you went to the White House, you went to Camp Lejeune. What did you take away or impressed you the most about your visit to Camp Lejeune?
I'm always impressed with the commitment level of the military. And it's something that I say it every time we leave one of these Mission 600 events, and I'm so grateful I get to do it because you get to see things up close and personal that the typical civilian, like myself, but doesn't get to see the commitment that not only the soldier is making, but their family's making as well. Right? Even the training that they go through is brutal. Like the training they were going through there when I was there, I was like, oh my gosh. Like they just got there that morning. They hiked 10 miles. They're sleeping out in the woods for a few nights as a training piece. And they're working on different missions and working on different things to try to be ready for whatever scenario can be coming their way. So it's the time commitment is one thing, right, and the effort. But then you put the life and death scenario in front of you as well. It's unlike anything else, and they're fighting for, you and me, who are complete strangers, right? They never met us, like they don't know who they're fighting for, but they're fighting for their country and what they believe in, and like I said, that's a commitment that none of us can understand. So I like going there and saying thank you for one, but also learning a little bit about what they do and trying to bring that back to our world. Because a lot of times, and we're all probably guilty of this, is that we live in our own little world and we assume everything's taken care of, and we just worry about the little things that in our world that maybe really don't matter in comparison to what these men and women are doing for us. So it's good for us to remember that more than just on Memorial Day and this time of year. We need to be thinking about that every day, because we do live in a great country, and we shouldn't be, the people that complain about everything. There'll always be something, but we need to be more appreciative of the people that allow us to live free and safe.
So you didn't go to Paris Island, you just went to Lejeune?
No, we just went to Lejeune, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, we're going to try to get 2 more questions in here. We're going to go to Jordan, and then we're going to finish with John.
Jordan Bianchi, The Athletic. You look at the stats year to year. They're all over the board. Your average running position is strong. Laps led strong. One top 10, though. How do you assess where you're at and kind of where you guys need to go?
Thank God for stage points at this point for us, which, at times, last year I could almost say the opposite, right, where we didn't run very good and then we were able to, fabricate a finish somehow. This year's just kind of been the opposite. And you name it, it has happened, right? And we've had good speed, though. Our cars have been pretty solid. To your point, our average running position is good. We lead some laps. We've scored a lot of stage points. And then something has happened. So it's a long year, right? We've only just begun. You're just in the very beginning of this thing. And the fact that we have speed gives me a lot of confidence that a win will be around the corner at some point. And, do we have some areas we need to clean up? Yes, right? I'm not going to pin all this on luck or just misfortune of some sort. I don't believe in that stuff. So there's areas that, as a team we can clean up, and we'll continue to work on that. Yep.
We'll take our final question from John.
John Newby, Savage Ventures. So tomorrow, Jesse Lovell, his first Cup start would be a 500-lap race here. I was curious, I know it's been a hot minute since 2009, but do you remember the sensation of making your first Cup start here and completing nearly all of the 503 laps?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember just you start making laps and you keep going. It's just the long green flag runs that'll get you. You keep going and going, and you just start to wonder, like, gosh, is there ever going to be a caution? I would love a break because, just like it doesn't happen as much for me anymore. But for the first probably 8 or 10 years I came here, their first few laps of practice, you'd be huffing and puffing after 5. You'd be in there just hanging on. You think, how in the world am I going to make 500 laps? There's no way. And now I've become more relaxed and understand the scenario, and I'm not, hanging on for my dear life in there. So it's changed. But the first few times you come here, that's how you feel. You run the first 10 laps of practice and think there is no way in hell I'm going to make it to the end of this thing. you just figure it out. That's what makes this place special, though. It's hard, right? It's challenging. 500 laps around here it's a long one. Yep.
Joey, thanks so much for coming in, and good luck this weekend.
Thank you, guys.
All right, we are going to continue on here with Denny Hamlin, driver the number 11 Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota. If you have a question, raise your hand. We'll get a mic to you. We're going to start here with Reed, and we'll work our way around the room.
Reed Spencer with the NASCAR Wire. I know 60 wins is on your radar, so is 3 in a row. But your next win will make you the winningest driver ever at Joe Gibbs Racing. I wonder if that number's on your radar, considering you've been there your whole career and Joe and JD sort of gave you your shot.
Yeah, it certainly is special. Such a historic organization, obviously, with championship drivers and whatnot. So, yeah, I mean, I've been there longer than anyone else, so that increased my odds. But, there's just been a lot of greats that have run through there. So it's certainly a title I'd like to have.
All right, we'll go next here to Zach or Cameron, or both.
Zach Sterniolo, NASCAR.com. Denny, what is it about this place, the allure of it, that really makes a driver want to be successful here? The stadium atmosphere, the history of it, what is it about this place to you that makes this place special?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I think that there's something to it, right? You do have these stadium atmospheres, so all the sound is right here, right? I mean, it's the noises of a racetrack, the noises of a short track that you grew up racing when you were a kid. So, it's just on the much bigger stage. So I think that's a big part of it. And then certainly over time, it's just that the fans are right there on you, and so that certainly a lot of the tracks where the fans are super close to the actual racing surface and infield, it always feels bigger.
Cameron Richardson, NASCAR.com. 400 consecutive starts tomorrow. Less than 30 Cup drivers have accomplished that feat. So for you personally, what does the significance of that milestone mean?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's a number for me. I hadn't thought of it or anything like that. It's certainly very hard to do. I mean, I've done this for 20-some years now, and certainly know the toll that it takes on your body in the long term. It's very, very difficult to stay in the car at all times. But and I've had to miss a few times because of other things. But certainly, it's great to be part of the sport as long as I have.
Let's go to Shane here.
Shane Connick, Charlotte Observer. Denny, how cool is it to come to Bristol like this? And then when you look toward the future, the Major League Baseball game, it's going to be in this venue. How much does it mean for the sport to be able to, you have this iconic short track that has its place in NASCAR, but to bring a whole different professional sport to this facility?
Yeah, I think it's great for the facility, and certainly they've hosted a few other sports as well. And so this is a big, area for sports when you think about, how close you got Knoxville and some other, college football teams around this area. To bring a Major League Baseball game obviously is big. I don't know that there's a lot of teams really condensed in this area, so you're bringing baseball. It's very similar to me what we did in Chicago, right? You're bringing the game to the people.
We'll go to Davey.
Davey Siegel with SiriusXM NASCAR Radio. You and Gabe Hart had raced together on a bunch of different traction compounds, resin, PJ1, VHT, all those things. You and Gale have not done that together yet. This race being what it was a year ago, still don't really know the exact reasons, but with the PJ1 being put down, how it has been so far, how have you and Gale prepared for this traction compound, this track this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, we, are kind of assuming that we're going to have a very similar race as to what we've had in the fall last year. If it turns out to be something different, which I think is a very low possibility, then you adapt from there, just like we had to do, or everyone really had to do last spring. But, that really is important in the driver-crew chief relationship to understand, okay, what are the things that we need to work on? I've got this experience from last year to know that there's certain things that, I'm going to need out of the car if this is going to be a tire conservation type race. And so I think that puts you at a leg up in those situations, certainly one where we were successful doing it. So, I have the utmost confidence that we'll come here with a fast car and contend and hopefully, find ourselves up at the front when it really counts.
We'll go to Dustin and then to Kelly.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. I know it takes multiple layers to have a successful organization, successful team with what you've been able to do at 2311. But I wanted to ask you about the pit crew and certainly the process that you've gone through that and what they've been able to do and how much effort you've been involved with that and what that means to kind of see some of the results that we're seeing now out of the 2311 pit crew.
Yeah, I mean, they, it's certainly encouraging to see because we definitely put a lot of effort into it. Not just money, but effort. And that's, whether it be recruiting people, getting them to trust in us that we have a process. A lot of the tricky things that you see on pit road these days came actually from 2311. So there's a lot of things that they're really being innovative in, and certainly it's exciting to see it kind of play out now on Sundays. And so knowing that your cars are contenders on the racetrack, is one thing, because Michael said for a long time that we're only going to be able to sell the dream for so long. You have to live it at some point. You have to be the dream, and so we can't talk about how great we can be or are going to be. Like, you have to be great. You can't just talk about it. And so we really feel like we're taking the next step, and the pit crew was the next step for that organization to get better, because we knew we were building fast cars, but we as the team, I thought, was letting our drivers down for a couple of years, and that was just part of the building process. They understood when they signed on that this is something that was going to take time to get better, and they were very patient with us.
Also, this sport has had long stretches of consecutive weekends of racing, so it's part of the sport's history. But after the Easter break, it's 28 consecutive weekends of racing, which is significantly more than years past. What is the challenge from a car owner's perspective of keeping people fresh, and where is a breaking point, or is there such thing as a breaking point?
Yeah, I mean, there's always a breaking point, right? I think we've seen it's been harder and harder to keep people over the years. The one thing that I do feel good about is our track record for keeping people at 2311 and keeping them happy. But it's just generally a hard sport to be a part of because of the schedule and the tasks that we ask our people to do, and how long we ask them to do it. And so, it's really, really hard. It's certainly not ideal, and I understand why we're doing it. We're just trying to cut one more week away from competing with football, but man, it certainly is very hard on people.
We're going to go to Kelly and then Alan.
Kelly, CrandallRacer.com. Denny, the PJ1 that you were talking about, Logano made it sound like he's not sure if it'll be reapplied for tomorrow. Do you want it to just stay as is right now, or is it worth a conversation with NASCAR of what's the plan? Do you even want it reapplied?
I think it's good to apply it. I think some of the better races that we've had here, it has been when the bottom has been as good or equal to the top. The challenging races have been when it's just been really top dominant and you can't move around. That's when you'll see the accordioning effect of you'll catch the lap tail in the lap cars, and then no one can pass anyone. So I think the PJ1 here has been a positive. I always wasn't a huge proponent of it, but after racing it enough years, I think it is good for the competition aspect to move around and have options. And sometimes your car's not great in both lanes, and that's what makes the great cars really show up when it counts at the end of this race. So I don't really have a preference whether they keep reapplying or not, as long as we all know ahead of time what that's going to be.
And then secondly, I'm curious, as we talk about the next win making you the winningest at Gibbs, and then also having the opportunity to win 3 straight, which you've never done before, considering all that you have accomplished in this sport, these moments, do you value or appreciate having just new things that you can accomplish and add to your resume?
Yeah, but I try not to psych myself out too much about it, because I think you sometimes put too much emphasis on those types of situations, and then you end up making silly mistakes. And so I try to just be as even keel as I can. It's a new week. It's another great opportunity to go win a race, and if it just so happens that it's 3 in a row, that'd be awesome, and certainly a very proud moment in my career. But it's not something that we set out to do each and every week. We don't go into the season saying, all right, I want to win at some point 3 in a row this year. Like, that's just such a hard thing to do, because all the stars have to align perfectly. As we saw last week, they did align perfectly for us. So it'd be fantastic. Some of the greats of our sport have done it, and I haven't, and it just tells you how difficult it is.
All right. Looks like we're going to take one more question. We're going to go to Alan.
Denny, Alan Cavana, PRN. This ability to even be in contention for 3 in a row. In your 40s, we talk about age a lot in the sport. Do you see yourself as defying the aging curve in what you're doing now?
Well, I think that it's been different for everyone, right? I mean, maybe, but I think people like Harvick were still, even, I think was he 48 when he retired? Like, he was still on top of his game as far as I was concerned. So I think it's different for everyone. Others you've seen that, you get to 43, 44, the light switch goes off. So you just never know. But my drive is still there, and obviously the performance is still there. So I'm going to try to just win all I can in this window while it is still there. So I think it's Mark Martin did it when he was 50. He was fantastic. I mean, there's no way I'll ever make it that far for sure. But it's, again, everyone's body, everyone's mind, everyone's eyesight is all different, and it goes away at different times.
Denny, thanks so much for
Thank
coming in, and good luck this weekend. Now, as you can see, we have our top 30 NASCAR Cup Series drivers starting to come in at this time. They'll be available for informal scrum-style interviews around the room. We will close during practice and reopen during qualifying.